What's up, Brainiacs? Well, they can tear down monuments, they can cancel parades, and they can even cancel fireworks for all I care. But they can't cancel the American spirit. That's alive and well right here on the Blabber Brain Show. Tonight's special guest is Cindy, the Mothership Blankenship. Let's do this.
Blabber Brains.
All right, it's our Independence Day show, everybody. Welcome to Blabber Brains. I am your host, Michael Kadrie, and the guy over there in the wonderful Uncle Sam top hat and Elton John shades is the Big M, Mark Anthony. Happy 4th to you, sir.
You too, baby. I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm off for 10 days.
Hey, you should look like you should be singing Philadelphia Freedom, I swear right now.
If I knew that, I'd pick up a guitar and just start doing it, but I have no idea how to play that song.
Well, you know, then the song in the background still rings true. Living in America, James Brown. Boy, that the song just reminds me of Rocky IV. Rocky IV reminds me of America, and you know that's what we're all about right now. We got the red, white, and blue flying high, and boy, it's a different Independence Day this year for everybody. But that doesn't mean that we can't still find our own ways to celebrate in our own special way with our family and friends. I'm sure everybody will be doing that. The rockets are still going to flare into the sky, as people still like to do every year. We just won't get to see them in big groups, that's all. So especially here in Pennsylvania now, they just shut down big, massive groups again. But we'll get into all that stuff in a little bit. But first, I'm going to introduce a new segment for the Blabber Brains show here. We're going to call this one Blabber Boast. And cue this.
Blabber Boast.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to boast about a few things that we've come across. And maybe hopefully these are not paid advertisements. Otherwise, we would be addressing it as such. We're not that big yet. Hopefully one day somebody will actually pay to have us mention something on the air here. But yeah. I think this is a good benefit for people that like to watch our show. Where you know, if we start talking about some things and recommending things, they might find it helpful. One of the things that people know about you and I is you know, we love to smoke cigars. We do. I know for a fact we've got a handful of cigar smoking fans out there that watch the show, and they're dying for us to talk about stuff. But I do want to plug one thing right now. If you're familiar with Perdomo cigars, for me, it is an excellent smoke. Perdomo makes, I mean, there's been cigars along the way that have failed me. They unravel or they die out. They can't get a draw sometimes. They're stale. Whatever the case may be. And Mark, I know you know that too. It's just sometimes it's pot luck when you get a cigar. It sometimes is great and sometimes not so great.
Yeah, and there's certain ones that seem certain sizes tend to have more problems with them than others too. I mean, it's
well, that's for sure. Yeah,
but these have a great. I'm sorry.
This is a 4-pack of Perdomo. They make these in all different wraps. This happens to be a Connecticut wrap that I like because it's my favorite. But they do make Maduro. They make Coro. They make all different kind of wraps that you can buy in the 4-pack. Typically, if you want to buy each one of these cigars separately, they range anywhere from $9.50 to $12 a cigar. And you can get this whole pack here, I think $27.95 to $29.95, depending on where you're buying it, local, depending on what state you're in. But to get those 4 for that price, I think is a really good deal. Really good smokes. I highly recommend the Perdomos. Mark, you got anything right now, or?
Well, actually, here's one I've actually I purchased. Actually, for the person who's looking for a cheap cigar. Now I have 3 humidors here, so I have some really nice cigars. But I work from home, and this time of the year I have it set up in the backyard. In the afternoon, I'll go and I'll do some fielding emails, some computer type, paperwork sort of stuff in the afternoon. So I'll smoke more. In fact, if we weren't doing this evening, I would be smoking a cigar with this mojito that I made. But so I go through. So I smoke more cigars in the summertime. So any of you who are Rocky Patel fans, or anybody who's looking for a great bundle cigar, it's only going to run you between $1.50 and $2 a piece. So it's the Rocky Patel has a whole line of, I think it's pronounced Fumas, Fumas, and basically it's from some of their popular. I don't know if you call them a brand or a model or what it would be called, but it's basically what's left over after they're done, like pieces of the long filler and stuff like that. And what they do is they put them into these. It's a bundle. They're usually in a package of 20. And I did a lot of research, and most of them people moan and groan about them. But there's one particular model, the vintage 2006 Toro Fumas, was one that actually had some good ratings on it. So last week I ended up getting a 20 pack. They were on sale, $29.95. I have free shipping through JR, and I'm going to tell you, I've had, I think, 4 or 5 of them now, and they have that Rocky Patel vintage series taste. I'd say they're medium bodied. You're going to have to touch them up a little more. They're going to go out a little more easily, but instead of a $10 cigar, it cost me about $1.50. And if you're somebody who's looking for a cheap smoke, or you have some friends coming over that don't smoke very often, then you don't want to waste a $10 cigar on. They're fantastic.
Now, what do you think? You think you're just getting those through JR? Do you think that if you went down to Bern, downtown Pittsburgh here, that they would have them there? Or
I don't know. I think that you could get them through JR. I know Famous Smoke. I don't know if they have them in any of the local spots or not. I would guess that they probably don't, because they're a bundle cigar. And maybe a Bernay might have them, although I would think it's such a nice place down there. They're probably wanting you to buy one of their
that's the only thing I'm thinking. They might not be promoting something like that.
Yeah, they probably have the American, I think it's called American Market Selection at some of the local cigar stores here. They're probably about a $4 cigar to Connecticut, and any size is actually pretty good. That's more of a traditional burning and lasting cigar.
I actually got one more quick one before we get blabbering here. And that's only because of the fact that I just had a bottle of this with him. And a lot of people know that I'm a big wine drinker. And my taste is particular, but you know, that's the great thing about wine, right? The great thing about wine is you don't have to be some, sommelier to enjoy wine. You know, you could be a regular Joe, and it's just you like what you like. But this 1,000 Stories, now I've had their wine before, but this particular one here is it's a red blend. It's called Gold Rush Red, but it's aged in bourbon barrels, and that's big on me right now. I've been really digging like the Buck Shack, wines that are they're fermented in bourbon barrels. But this one here, this 1,000 Stories, is so smooth. It is. I mean, with every sip that you take of this, I'm just like, like it's almost like heaven. It's amazing. So, yeah. I mean, we only have thousands of viewers on our podcast each week right now, so you guys are getting free plugs for now. And I just want everybody to know about some of these things, like the cigars, this wine. But I highly recommend some of those things.
About the wine, I've had a couple of ones that were with either that in barrels that either was bourbon or sherry, and the one I had with the bourbon, I can't remember what it was. Oh my God, was it just was so overpowering that I couldn't taste much of the wine. How's this as far as the level of bourbon flavor to you? Oh
no, this doesn't. The Buck Shack now will kick you in the ass. That's a given. This is it's very smooth. It's very smooth. It's not going to knock you on your hiney, but it's a great red blend to begin with. That it just the whiskey barrels, I think, enhance the flavor. It doesn't overpower the flavor. And I know exactly what you're talking about, because I've had those wines where it just like boom, it like kicks you. Buck Shack doesn't like totally knock you over, but you can tell it's definitely in those whiskey barrels, so in those bourbon barrels. But yeah, I'm really happy with that. And for the price, the Buck Shack goes for about $20 when you find it. This one here is normally about $20, something like that, $18 to $20. I think this one was on sale for like $16.99 when I got it, whatever. But it's not, you're not going to kill you to go out and buy one of those. So highly recommend those. So there's our first installment of Blabber Boast.
Blabber Boast.
All right, now there's plenty of talk about right now, and I know we've got a guest coming up a little bit later on, as I said in the opener. We've got the Mothership coming on board for our second segment, Cindy Blankenship, and I know you're going to enjoy her if you like music, if you like hard rock music, if you like Christian hard rock music, if you like all the above, you're going to enjoy the conversation we have with her. She's just well known in that community, so stay tuned for that. But you know, there's a part of me that like is it's painful watching a lot of the things that's going on in this country right now, right? With the Chaz, Chop, whatever you want to call it, these people just thinking that they can just go in and take over places, you know. Wouldn't that be nice? Like, we're all fed up with Wolf here in Pennsylvania. Wouldn't it be nice if you just have a group of people just walk into Harrisburg, say, nope, you're out, we're in, we're taking over. That's the way these people are treating it. You know what I mean? That's not America. That's not what we do. It's just sad. You know, but I'm just the type of guy that I want to focus on the positive, right? You can look at all the crap going on in this country, you know, all the negative stuff, the Black Lives Matter movement, what have you, the presidential race coming up. And it's real easy to get negative and down, and that's all I'm seeing on social media. Everybody negative, down. You know, that's just not who I am, man. I like to focus on the positive, and I like Independence Day as a holiday. It is a reminder of what this country was founded on. It's just too bad that so many people have lost their way and lost their the ability to remember why this country was founded and what the experiment was all about, and they want to focus on negative things. Oh, well, the founders were slave owners. Well, you know what? They also created the amendments because they knew that one day the amendment process was going to be a way to free the slaves, to set them free. You know, anything that has a tie to racism nowadays, the cancel culture is there to step up and cancel people. I really want to start a new movement. I want to start the cancel movement, or whatever we don't want to call it. Step up and try to cancel the people who are canceling people. You know, this is just the weirdest thing in the world, where somebody gives somebody authority to step up and start telling people that they're no longer meaningful. You know, one of the most you know, awesome as far as person goes in the world. You know, there are so many people like that, like Dave Grohl, Sammy Hagar. For crying out loud, they're trying to cancel Sammy Hagar now for his comments on the coronavirus and everything. The cancel culture is out of control. And it's about as un-American as you can get. We have freedom, we have liberty, we have the First Amendment, freedom of speech. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom of speech as long as you agree with fill in the blank. As long as you agree with the cancel culture, then you're free to speak whatever you want, right? It's just it's bull. You know, and that's the only thing that gets me down, and the only thing that gives me positive and you know, hope and all this stuff is my close and personal friends are the ones who are more upbeat and positive, and they'll celebrate Independence Day, and my family, and you know, my daughter just graduated. There's so much good going on in my personal world. I don't want to focus on the negative, but you know, this is a time to celebrate our country and not put the country down, ripping monuments down and all this. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. People think they literally have a right to just go out and rip something down because they don't like it. Maybe they think that's going to erase what happened in the past. You know, those monuments don't mean we celebrate that. That just means that we need to be reminded of where we were, not where we're at. You know?
I get a couple of them. I mean, there are a couple of them that are a bit ridiculous, but not the way of going about doing it is surely not.
Take up a petition in your local community and have it taken down that way. Don't go out and rip it down.
I mean, I have no problem with people protesting when they feel that they have a good reason to protest.
Absolutely.
It's all the other stuff that's going along with it. And look, I don't know what it's like to be a minority. I'm not going to sit here and try to justify, well, if I was them, I would do this, or if I was her, I have no idea what I would do. But one thing I hope that I wouldn't do is to go out and do things in a manner that I'm ticking the people off that I want to side with me. You know, why can't you have people getting together and saying, okay, instead of, bashing through gates and finding the mayor of this community or that community, why can't you after a period of time say, okay, we're going to gather in wherever part it is in Pittsburgh or whatever city that you live in, and every Saturday we're going to have this go on from this time to this time. We're going to have a little setup there, maybe with this little PA system, and maybe have a few people, leaders in that area, come out there and actually talk and inspire.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Gather everybody together because it's like this. There's things that have been very important to me that, not to this extent, obviously.
Right.
I'm not going to try to say so, but the only, if you got to, I guess the way I look at it is there's got to be a period of time. I know it's probably really difficult, but sometimes you have to take that chip off. You got to take it off the shoulder. You just got to brush it to the side, because it seems like what happens is, and this doesn't have anything to do whether you're white or you're black, but it seems that when you go through history, it doesn't matter what the race is of someone, or whether it's male or female. Oh, probably more so male than female. They tend to be a little more sensible at times than us. But I mean,
watch what you say.
It seems like if you've been wrong too long, and the people before you, maybe your family, have been wrong. At first, it seems that there's been some great people that have gone out, and they've gone out and they've worked hard to try to make a change. Might have been a little bit of change. It could be a big change. It seems that after a period of time, they get that chip on their shoulder, and it's like, you know what? I'm going to get them now, and I'm going to take what's mine, and I'm going to take more than what's mine because it's what I deserve. And that's where the problems come in with everything. I mean, when you think of somebody like a Martin Luther King, you talk about somebody who's had some balls.
Yeah.
Here's a guy. It's like, I know I'm probably going to end up getting killed, but I don't care. This is more important to me. And he went out, and everybody they weren't caught.
Peacefully.
And people listened to him because he was, you hear any of his speeches. The guy could get you on board. You don't even have to you're probably not even paying attention. You could hear it in the background on a television. You have to turn your head and listen to the guy talk. I can't imagine that he would be like, let's burn this down. Let's burn.
No, he would, and that's not what he was about. And
shame.
Here's the funny part about all this is that a guy like Martin Luther King, if he was around, Martin Luther King Jr., just to be specific, if he was around today, he would still be vilified. People would still be putting him down, and they'd be trashing him and whatever. One of the most eloquent speakers of our time in the last 100 years. And I would like to meet somebody who actually has a problem with him and what he stood for and what he had to say. I'm
sure there are people out there that did.
I'm sure that, at the time, obviously, that's why he was killed. They didn't like what he was saying. But I'm talking about in today's day and age, where are the Martin Luther King Jr.'s of today? They're nothing but people right now trying to perpetuate what he stood against. They're forgetting what he was. He said, judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. And the majority, I don't want to say the majority of people, there's an awful lot of people doing just the opposite. You know what I mean? And skin color means everything. Now, to the positive and to the negative, there's people, we need to give preferential treatment to people with different skin color and stuff like that, and the white privilege nonsense and stuff. So we are the human race. There's one race, in my view. We are one race. And I don't like the people that try to put down people like me who say we're diminishing the black race or the Hispanic race or whatever by saying there's one human race, because that's diminishing them and their struggles and all this. And it's just the opposite. It's the message of Martin Luther King Jr. It's judge everybody by who they are and what you do and what you stand for, and not by what you look like. Again, we talked about this before. Not in the same way, because I can cut my hair and I can do whatever. But when I had long hair, I can't tell you how many times I crossed the street and people were locking their doors thinking, what, I'm going to break into their car just because I had long hair? I looked like a thug. I wasn't dressed like a rat. I wouldn't dress like a homeless person or whatever. But I had long hair and people were prejudging me. It's not the same thing as being black or Hispanic or anything like that. But it's still prejudice because someone's prejudging you based on your looks. And, this is 2020 for crying out loud. Shouldn't we be beyond this stuff? And the only reason I think that we're still here in America doing this stuff is because people are perpetuating this. They want to fan the flames. And for some for profit, some for gain, some for political motives, some for, notoriety, whatever. Man, we should just be on this right now. And
there's just that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that we're celebrating America right now. We are all Americans. I don't care what color you are. The amendments fix the issue of slaves, and the civil rights movement fixed the issue of giving black people equal treatment and stuff. The amendments fixed the process all over the place, with women being able to vote, with blacks being able to vote. That's what the amendment process is for. It seems like we've come so far since the 1950s and 60s, but yet you look out there sometimes and you wonder how far have we come in some other people's eyes. Like they don't feel like we've regressed in some ways, and it's just disheartening.
Yeah, there's still that. There's still that. I mean, and it's probably, unfortunately, it's probably going to always be there to some extent, but maybe it will get better when the generation before us and our generation passes on, and maybe as time goes on, some of this stuff will get better. I know some things that I saw when I was a kid, even with family and things around me, that aren't happening today. And so, like I says, I can't sit and go into somebody's mind and say, hey, I know how you feel. I would do this is what I would do instead of that. I think there's probably most people who want to make a change for whatever reason. I think most people have good intentions, but unfortunately, when you get a percentage of people like this and other people who come in to try to profit and capitalize off of that, it screws that up. And just like anything, you could have something going on and some sort of vandalism going on. And even though there's people who generally wouldn't participate in that, if things get heightened enough, you get a few people that you wouldn't expect to jump into the mix. And now all of a sudden, maybe a couple more will, because there's more people doing that. And it's just a mess. And it's just communication with people, even within the same race, is ridiculous. Just like we deal with politics and stuff like that. You could say that you don't like something, or I'm not a fan of this because of this. There's already somebody out there, ready to rip your head off. So it's like that. Yeah. I want to live in a free country, as long as you agree with it's almost like communism, separate communism. Hey, I like to live in a free country, long as you agree and think like how I think. But if not, get the hell out of here and go somewhere else.
And you can point your fingers to a lot of different places as to where this stems from. A lot of people say it's from the universities and these egghead professors teaching to hate America and to be only a single-sided thinker, and not be diverse in your education as far as the real world goes, not only listen to liberal side, not conservative side. And you know what I mean? It's listen to both sides, man. I mean, that's how you get enlightened, because there's always somebody out there that knows something that you don't know. And the only way you're going to learn something is by listening to people in the conversation, because whoever you're talking to, you have no idea, that they might have vast knowledge of a certain subject matter that you have no idea, that you're just out there flapping your gums about because it's coming from your heart and not from your head. Listen, there's a reason why God gave you 2 eyes and 2 ears and a mouth, right? Because you're supposed to use them proportionately, right? Listen more, have a proper vision, see what's actually going on, and talk a lot less. A little hypocritical coming from a show called Blabber Brains, but that's why we call ourselves Blabber Brains, because we do talk with our brains and not with our mouth, and don't speak from our heart.
So we're already at the bottom of the hour.
Yeah, I know this goes real fast, but I tell you what, as gloom and doom as sometimes it seems, man, I still believe in the American freedom and hope for the future, and the whole experiment is still going. You know, we're going to be 250 years old very soon, and probably sooner than I want to, admit, because I was 10 years old when we were 200 years old, and now we're riding on 250. And I'm like, what? Holy smokes! But yeah, we're going to take a short little break here. We do have Cindy Mothership, Blankenship coming up, and I know you're going to enjoy hearing what she has to say. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Blabber Brains.
All right, welcome back to Blabber Brains, and we now have our special guest, Cindy, the Mothership, Blankenship, with us. Welcome, Cindy, to the show.
Hey, guys.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah, there you go. A little applause going on.
Woo, big crowd.
All right. Cindy, it's actually the first time we're actually talking in person. We've had some conversations back and forth on social media and whatever. Cindy is a conduit to just about everything in the Christian rock community. And she was, are you the founder or one of the founders of the
Grizzly Awards?
Grizzly Awards.
Yes.
You're also heavily connected with the Loud and Proud Festival over in Germany. Your connections to every major Christian heavy rock band goes back, years. And, I want to talk a little bit about that because I'm jealous of you, first of all. first and foremost, I mean, just about all my favorite bands in that genre, you are really good friends with and have worked with over the years. But, how did you get started in all this? I mean, where did it take off from you? Was it something you lucked into? Is this something you progressed into? Where did that all start?
Well, let's see. We'd have to go way back because I'm really old. But I'll give you a couple of snippets just to give you an idea how it kind of got that way. My first job at 17 was working in a Christian bookstore in the 80s, and became a manager, sold tickets to concerts, helped, at merch tables and things like that. While I was doing that. Went to Christian booksellers conventions, met a lot of the bands, watched debut of This Means War with Petra, and got to meet Petra at that, back then. Nice. And, met all the authors. And so anyway, I kind of got into it then and got my feet in it. But then after we finally began to start our family, which it took us 11 years to start our family. Not on our own choosing, but Lord's
not everybody
timing.
has that kind of fortitude. Trust me. Some might say you're lucky.
Yeah. We were very blessed finally to have 2 children, but I retired from the Christian the Christian bookstore, and continued, of course, listen to Christian music and that sort of thing. But that was kind of the first stages. And then we got into ministry, and then my husband was a minister of youth, and we would go to events and things. But I don't think really things took off doing to kind of the things that I'm doing now until we started going to concerts with our kids when they became teenagers. I'm going to take these off now.
Go ahead. Yeah, you're fine.
When they became teenagers, I think the first thing that sparked it was we went to see Skillet about 10 years ago, and the kids had been wanting to go really bad, and so we went, fell in love with the whole, the pyro and the whole thing. I was like, man, we've been missing out, And so
they put on a show. They put on a show.
Yeah, I don't care, they always put on the best shows. So anyway, my daughter began to draw pictures of Skillet. Ended up, Ben Cassica used her art for their podcasts. The intro that with the on the podcast where they had the cartoons. Those were her drawings. And so we got to know Skillet, and it just blessed my heart how they mentored her, Corey and Ben. I still email Ben every time something happens in her life, because I feel like she's now a graphic artist,
right? And
it started with him investing in her.
Oh, awesome.
And so that was one of the things that endeared me to bands. And then as things began to progress, we started going to others, and the next big milestone, I guess, that really started catapulting me into the Mothership ministry was I went to see my friends Decyfer Down and The Letter Black, which they recognized me, but I was just a regular fan at that point. I had not.
Pittsburgh band, by the way. They live in Uniontown, Pennsylvania, just south of where I live here in Pittsburgh. So
nice. Yeah. Well, I went to see them, but it was Brian Head Welch band at the time, Love and Death, was there, and I fell in love with them. I had never listened to Korn. I didn't know his whole backstory, but I especially fell in love with J.R. Bar Ice, which was the guitarist. He was 15 years old, and I was just so fascinated with this little kid that was playing with him. Anyway, it progressed. I'm having to leave out tons of stuff, but anyway, I ended up. Because his mother kept talking about how they were eating badly on the road, and I started seeing what was happening and what the needs that they had, and that they were sleeping in Walmart parking lots, and they weren't eating good food. And I was like, somebody needs to do something. And usually when you have that kind of a thought, that means it's you that needs to do something.
Right.
So I started fixing them snack bags and meals and different things. And I began to meet other bands while I did that, because I fed everybody on the tour. I didn't, just because I brought food to them, I wasn't going to not feed everyone else.
Right.
So I started bringing them food and stuff. And then JR's mom on a Facebook one day says, "Oh, when he's in Atlanta, you're his Mothership." And everybody goes, "Ooh, you need to own that." And so she birthed it.
Lo and behold.
She's the one that, it's just, my last name is Blankenship. And if you look up if you look up what a mothership is, it's, takes care of the smaller vessels, and, and it just fit. So that was the first time it came up that I was, and I just did it personally for me, but it then began to grow, and other people began to notice, and then they began to ask me, how can I do that too? So that was like stage 2.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it's fascinating to me because, I all the different things I've been through with music since I was a kid, playing drums and then playing bass and trying to play in bands. But I tell you what, Mark and I, the time that we grew up when we were playing in bands and playing in clubs, I think most professional bands that are like Decyfer Down that are out there touring would probably be a little jealous of almost at times. I mean, I was playing in a band one time, just a local band, and we were making $400 or $500 a night back in the 80s.
Wow.
Equate that to today's time and money, inflation and stuff like that. There are bands playing out there today individually. I'm talking about individually. I would make $400 or $500 individually, and that don't make that kind of money. Right. And in today's money, if you inflate that into 2020, I mean, that's like what, the equivalent of getting paid like $5,000 now. I don't know. It was the rock scene, the nightclub scene was just so much different. I mean, people turned out. I mean, and the deal we would get is like the most of the clubs we play, they're like, okay, you get 50% of the bar and 100% of the door.
Wow.
Well, you get 100 people in there and you're charging $5 a head, there's $500 right there. And then they're all drinking their butts off. You're racking up the money before you know it. Yeah. So it's just not like that today. Yeah. It just, it went away with, what happened was the people that were into doing that grew up and had families and they stopped going to the clubs, and their kids around just probably coming of age where, who knows, maybe it'll take another resurgence and start coming around again. It needs to do something, because I tell you what, the music industry has been devastated. I feel bad. I really feel bad for the big bands, because this is the only thing that they do, and even the smaller bands.
Yeah.
Now, the smaller bands have they don't. It's not like they have like jobs at the Best Buy and stuff like that they can fall back on.
Right.
So,
right.
some of the bigger bands that they put on big huge productions, but some of the smaller bands, you could probably still get away with playing some of the smaller venues where you're not having big huge crowds of people and still be able to make some sort of livelihood trying to get through this. But like if you got your For King and Countries and your Skillets and bands like that, you're just dead. You can't do anything.
Right. You're right.
But some of the smaller bands might be able to get away with doing some smaller gigs as things start to slowly progress. So
I think a lot of people are getting cheaper too. I know some of a friend of mine owns a bar here in the area, and they don't, since now we're shut back down for at least a week, but they're not offering anything because they don't have that many people coming in, because they can only allow so many people in, then it's considered capacity. And unfortunately, there's some people taking advantage of that for the bands because they're trying to get them as cheap as they can, and some of them are just desperate to say, okay, I don't have anything else to do. I'm just, we haven't played out in 3 months, so
praying they're going to sell some merch, right?
Yeah, I don't even. Yeah, if even that. But I mean, there's a lot of bands, at least here in Western Pennsylvania, that a lot of them can't even play a whole night on their own anyhow, because they know 10 or 12 songs, so they have 5 bands playing, and that's when it's at full capacity. They'll have 4 or 5 bands playing, and they're all, each band splitting $50 if they're lucky. And it's just changed. The only thing that's gotten better over the years is now it's a lot easier to not be in a major city and go out and play some of your own material, where years ago you used to have to lie and say, oh yeah, we're a classic rock band. Really, that really wasn't true. It takes some classic rock and update it, but you had to say what you had to say to get in, because people wanted to cover bands. So that's changed, which is better, but the money isn't there.
It must be odd also for bands like Red. First of all, Red's one of my favorite Christian hard rock acts. They're most consistent. They're phenomenal, right? I've been fans of them since their first album.
Yeah,
they're
one of my favorite. They speak to me a lot.
Yeah. I've seen them a lot live. I think Mark's even seen them a few times with me, but it's just odd because they've played in front of 20, 30,000 people, and then like the last time they played in Pittsburgh last year was at the Hard Rock Cafe, and there was maybe 100 people there. But they're always consistent of what the shows that they put on. Now I was like, why are they putting it the like so many times that there was this place here called the Altar Bar, which was an old church, and I guess maybe for that reason, a lot of the Christian hard rock bands played there. And I saw that show that you were talking about with Love and Death and
I was with
Letter
you.
Black. Yeah, I think you were with me. Really good show.
It was a great show.
Yeah, and so that was at the Altar Bar, but they would get 600, 700, 800 people packed into that place. And but then it's weird, like going over and then you go to the Hard Rock Cafe and you're getting like 100, 125 people in there. It's just really odd.
Although I really love the intimate ones a lot.
Yeah, same with us. I mean,
you just wonder how that affects the pocketbook.
Right.
Of course, if it's a filler date or something,
This might be beneficial and helpful, like I said, for some of the artists that haven't quite gotten their due yet, or maybe that are underlooked. If we want to say, I don't want to say overlooked, but underlooked. And I think at least as far as the Christian hard rock genre goes, I think there's plenty of those bands. And some have actually now, I think, are starting to break through that. We're now the second or third or fourth tier in a Christian rock festival, and now they bumped up to maybe a second or third tier instead of like way down the list. And like who are some of those bands that you think are finally starting to break through that they can still play these smaller clubs and maybe get away with some of this stuff, but yet people are finally starting to recognize them and who their name is?
Yeah, there's a lot of I think some of the Rockfest Records people, your Lent, and of course the Protest is moving up.
Yeah, I love the Protest.
Yeah, those guys are the best. I love them. When I say I love them, it's not necessarily always the music.
Right, it's the people.
It's
It's
like,
the
I just
people.
I love their music and them. It's like a bonus package, They've been to the house for dinner and had a blast serving them.
Well, Jared seems like a really nice. I mean, just like the nicest guy you want to hang out with.
They all are, and Jared designed our Grizzly Award artwork.
Nice. Oh, really? Nice.
We wanted to work in the industry and try to support people. It's sort of like what we were supposed to be about anyway.
Right.
So we were like, hey. And he just came up with like 3 or 4 mock-ups, and they're like all perfect. So I was like,
well, do you think the Grizzly Awards is a good way to get some of these lesser known bands, some awareness? Maybe if they win an award for best newcomer or best breakthrough album or something like that, maybe it puts their name on the map or something. Yeah,
I noticed that in looking at the social media that a lot of people are going, who are they? I haven't heard of this band before, and then it's like, oh, I love this band,
Yeah.
Or they were like, some people were surprised at the female vocalist, from Bayless. And a lot of people had not heard White Collar Sideshow and TD.
Yeah, I had not.
And he's like hitting the secular, he's on Billboard now.
Nice.
And I feel like, that just that little foot up, that best drummer, whether it's, it's just a little oomph,
Yep.
But that's one of the things that we wanted to do was we didn't want to ignore the big artists because they get ignored everywhere too. They don't get Dove Awards or anything.
Right. Yeah.
And we didn't want to ignore them and treat them badly. So we tried to have a balance and make sure that the categories led, and also the fact that it was just artists, just songs and albums that were released that year, so that you don't have the same winners every year, just like so many award shows, that each year as new stuff comes out that you'll get to hear a sampling of all the new stuff. And but we heard a lot of feedback from people going, thank you for introducing us to these bands. We never heard them before, Rusty Ship and just different ones that had just been kind of on the outskirts.
Yeah, I think more people need to hear bands, like Glasslands or XXI.
Oh gosh, Glasslands. It's one of my faves.
They're just phenomenal. Well, go ahead, Mark.
Oh, Cindy, or should I be saying your mother?
Mothership.
You call me Cindy or Mothership. It doesn't matter. I think some of the younger kids prefer calling me Mothership because they just feel funny calling me Cindy. Some of them call me Miss Cindy, but.
Oh.
But now, yeah.
Do you get a lot of people? I would assume, because I'm not as familiar with the Christian rock scene as Mike. So I was doing a little research on you and just checking out everything that you did, how you got involved with. I was blown away by it, how I've never heard of anybody who's out there helping the bands and actually selling T-shirts with their name on it.
Yeah, that's a story too, if you want to hear that one.
So how many, do you get a lot of, I would assume that there are people, I would think, struggling new artists, maybe somebody young in another part of the country or the world, that I would assume they're trying to send you CDs or get your email address, see if they sort of,
yeah, people do.
Say,
they try to get my attention. They'll send me messages on Messenger and say, they'll let me hear stuff before it's released, and tell me, hey, we're getting ready to release this. It's going to be on YouTube, and have a listen. And then and that's what I've been doing all along, is tried to share whenever I hear something that I think people will like. I share it and stuff, and that's what they're counting on. Occasionally, I get some perks, some free stuff sent to me. I usually prefer and have tried to purchase, because that's the whole point, is to support them. I usually try to, actually buy the merch. But sometimes, I can tell that it would hurt their feelings if I didn't let them gift something. So you just kind of have to weigh that out. But yeah, I do get a lot of, people saying, what do you think? And of course now people are starting to say, do you think this is good enough for the Grizzly Awards?
Well, that means you're doing something right? Yeah.
So, but the whole thing is, ever since I had a a car accident in 2014 and injured my my two remaining bending vertebrae. I had a scoliosis surgery as a teenager. Kind of chronic pain thing. Probably. I've been told I need to have my whole spine fused, and I'm like, I don't have time for that because of taking care of parents and stuff. And so. I'm not making the amount of money. And then my husband, as he's getting older, he had to switch to a different job. And so we really don't have as much money to invest, but we used the money that we invest and bought stuff with, the food we've paid for it, that we see as our love offering of over and above. We do tithe to our church. And then over above, that's a love offering. So I try to, support them as best we can, but it's getting harder, and that's why it's been such a blessing for so many people to get behind what I'm doing. There have been people. I'm not ignorant, and I'm not full of myself to think, oh wow, look what I'm doing. People have been doing this for bands. They've been letting them stay at their house. They've been feeding them. They've been doing it for a long time, but for some reason, I've ended up being the spokesperson, and I've been put in charge. I mean, I get constant messages. What does Disciple like to eat? What? Who should I give this to? Is there anybody that has food allergies in Glasslands? Is there? So I get that kind of lot of questions like that too.
Right.
So.
Well, how did you get involved with the Loud and Proud Festival?
Well, I had some friends, one of them being Max Weber, who a lot of y'all will see him posting, and he's fluent in English. Yeah. He was very heavy into the scene, and he saw my Mothership things and said, you need to come to Loud and Proud. And I was like, I would love to go back to Germany. I went in 1977, my senior year, just after I got my body cast off from my spine surgery, and went on a foreign exchange program for 3 weeks. I had a couple of years of German under my belt, but I had always wanted to go back. And I thought, wouldn't that be awesome if I could go back to Germany? So long story longer, I ended up, they invited me to please come. And when I got there, before I knew it, I was a member of the CVJM stands for YMCA in English. It's the acronym for that. Right. I was a member of the YMCA, and I was on the booking team before I left Germany.
Wow.
So they knew that I could reach people.
Right.
As you know, if you're trying to reach a band, you go to a management or you go to a booking agent, and sometimes they don't respond, and it's like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And then like the booking agent will then go to the manager, and then the manager will go to the band. And then it'll take weeks to get something. I just text the band.
Right. Directly.
It's just so much easier. But and also being an English liaison, my German's just enough to get me in trouble. I can listen and understand more than I can speak. But I help them. Spanish. Yeah. I help them with writing the emails and fixing English in places like the thing they hand out to all the bands when they get there. I go over that and just help them out a little bit, and get to see my bands. And then if like for instance last year in Ashes Remain, Josh was staying with his relatives off campus away from where all the other bands were. So I was constantly texting back and forth with him for someone to come pick him up. And he just felt more comfortable speaking to me rather than trying to reach somebody in German, that speaks German, to come pick him up. Made, I could make sure he was understood and that sort of thing. So I was a liaison,
right.
Whatever they needed, helping them with errands and stuff. So I just did the same thing I do here, but in Germany. Right.
Well, that's a lot of fun, man.
It was. I'm sad we're going to miss it this year.
Oh yeah, I know. But I mean, what can you do? I mean, nobody predicted this coming, but no. It's not going to be forever. They'll be back and stronger and better than before, hopefully.
Yeah.
But are there any bands that aren't around anymore that you miss, that you wish were still there? I know that's a loaded question.
That is a loaded question. I'm old and I can't remember things.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about like more modern bands, even like over the last like 10, 12 years that, we're starting to make something of themselves. I mean, I can think of a couple right now, but, any ones that, stick out to you?
Well, I've had some friends that, one of the first bands was Strya, which was one of Ben Cassica's bands. Anytime Ben had a band, I always supported it. And We Are Leo was also one of those bands. I met them at Chili's and bought their dinner at 10 o'clock at night one night. And Ben had sent me one of his guitar picks as a gift. I was like, but anyway, so anytime he had a band, I always supported him. And Strya, I thought was going to really go somewhere. And then they split up, and you know how things happen and stuff. Yeah. But that was a smaller band. Gosh, I can't even think right now.
I know the band is still around in a different format As We Ascend, but We As Human,
right.
I was loving.
Oh yeah, I loved I loved them.
I mean, they were on that tour also with Letter Black and with Love and Death and stuff. But when I saw them live, and I was just like, man, they were really like hitting it with me, and so another band in a different kind of genre, but Ivory Line. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
But I don't think
The Wedding I miss.
I've heard of them, but I'm not as familiar with them.
Yeah.
But I'll have to tell you off the air too, some little cool connection I have with Ben Cassica as well. But Ben's a really, really great guy.
He is.
But the as far as Decyfer Down goes, I want to talk to you a little bit about, because I know you're good friends with those guys. Have you been with them since TJ, or were you kind of working with them at all, or friends with them since when Caleb was with them?
No, actually, I mean, we had the album that Caleb sang on, right. The first album, but actually, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, the first Skillet concert I went to was when Crash came out, which was their Grammy-nominated album.
And Caleb was started touring with them there. Yeah,
but the album itself, Caleb had already recorded all the vocals for that.
Right, when
and
TJ came in.
TJ came in and re-recorded everything.
Right.
And I met them at their merch table. So that was the first time I met Decyfer Down.
Okay.
So it was a little bit later before, I was trying to think when I started. I can't remember when I fed them first. But they've been to TJ is a frequent flyer in our house, even when he does his solo stuff, because he lives in North Carolina and we're in Atlanta area. And when he comes from Alabama and stuff, it's a perfect spend the night spot. He's 4 hours out from his house from here. So I'll be in the car and I'll get a call and I see TJ on there and he goes, "Hey." I went, "Hey." I was like, "You need a place to stay?" I was kind of hoping, So anyway.
So needless to say, if it's a choice of fanship of Decyfer Down between Caleb and TJ, you're going TJ.
Well, you know what? I love Caleb's vocals. But I don't know him. I know his brother.
Yeah, Josh.
But I just never got to meet him. But oh gosh, yeah, he's got I am not one of these people that says, oh, the old albums of this band is better than the new album, because to me it doesn't matter. I just like it all.
Okay, Ben or Seth in Skillet.
Well, you know what? We're not going to do that. When Seth first started, he was very shy, but he's really grown into that spot.
Yes, he has.
So he's fantastic.
No, he's owning the rock star stature right now. So I like it.
It took him a little while. He was a little shy, but he's doing a fantastic job.
Well, what else you got coming up on the horizon now with all this lockdown going on? I'm sure you're trying to find something to stay busy with and stuff like that. And I know you got a new radio show coming up. Tell us a little bit about that and how that came about.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm keeping busy and ministering by taking care of my the groceries for my mother-in-law and the groceries for my mother. My mother is pretty. Well, she's not. I don't know if she's legally blind, but she has blind spots and glaucoma, and so I was driving her to grocery shopping every week anyway. But now I am actually shopping for her and my mother-in-law. And then I'm my father's guardian. He's got dementia. And he's in the Georgia War Veterans Home. So I'm ministering to them. That's what I'm doing.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So I do all their shopping
that's
and take care of all their stuff.
Noteworthy right there.
Yeah, there you go. But then, I've known Lee over at Solid Rock for a little while. I actually went out there and met him when he did a Disciple concert. And just recently he just said, "You want to do a radio show?" And I'm like, "Oh, I can't do a radio show. I don't know. I can't do it." And he's like, "Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can." So I told him, I said, "Okay, well, look, I'll do one day a week and I'll give it a try and we'll see what happens." And he just wanted me to tell stories and, do interviews and stuff. Some of my friends. So I thought, well, it'll take me with once a week. It'll take a little while before I run out of friends. So maybe it'll work out.
No, I think you're going to do just fine. Like I said, especially in this with the topics that you have to talk about. I don't think there's going to be any shortage of conversation, at least from you. And
the only thing I'm worried about is learning how to use equipment. It's like, you can teach an old dog new tricks. It just takes her a little longer. Yeah,
you'll get it. Don't worry. I mean, like, who thought that, Mark and I started this show because we just, hanging out in a cigar bar talking, and everybody kind of like found our conversations amusing and stuff like that. So we're like, yeah, well, let's see if we can pull off a podcast. We're not doing anything else right now.
Yeah, so. If I like it, maybe I'll do every day or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the one thing. We don't promise how often we do this thing, but when we do it, we want to have fun with it.
I always look at, when somebody offers me something, this has been kind of my mantra just recently is, I've said, God keeps opening doors and I keep stumbling through them. And that's basically it. It's like people say, "Hey, you should do this," or "Let's do this," or whatever. And I look at it and I thought, okay, if this helps my bands, then it's worth looking into. And eventually I have to say, stop. Right. I can't do everything. But if it fits the goal, if it fits the, what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to accomplish, because what's been happening, as you probably saw, if you look at the, my social media, is other people want to do what I'm doing, and I'm kind of teaching and training. And I just started the I'm with Mothership page on Facebook, which I actually had it, and I had it hidden for a long time because I wasn't ready. But right. I want to start diverting traffic from my personal page to there. And then as things pick up, post tours and how people can help and give them some specifics, because people really do want to support these guys and gals. And they just need to know how. And
well, we'll put the link up here as we're promoting that. You over on Instagram yet or anything like that? Doing Twitter?
Yeah, I'm Send a Blank on Instagram, and I have a Twitter, but I don't usually do Twitter.
Yeah, maybe you gotta get the Mothership over on Instagram too, and try to connect those two or something like that.
I think you just have to. Right now, it's just Send a Blank, so it's just my personal. I mean, it's like. Most everything I post on there is music oriented and stuff. Right. Maybe I'll just change the name of it.
That's one way to do it. That's one way to go about doing it.
I don't do a lot of family stuff and things on it. Just mostly my friends and pictures of me with different friends and promoting whatever they got going on.
Okay. So before we wrap things up here, and this time has gone very fast. It was great talking to you too this whole time. This has been a nice conversation and good insight to a little bit of your world and how you got going and everything like that. And I'm still a little jealous of you and what you get to do and who you get to hang out with. So
can I tell you one last story?
Cut it for him.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I just wanted to share
ministry-wise, because all that's fun. That's fun in games. But the Brian Head Welch concert that I went to, I took my brother, who's 3 years younger than I, to that concert, who was lost and had addictions. And because there was a smaller crowd that night, Brian was out among the people in the merch area, and Brian Head Welch began to speak with my brother, and along with my friend Doug Naden, who now one of my best friends in Atlanta. they gave their testimony, and he told how he got off drugs and all that. And they laid hands on my brother and they prayed for him, and it changed my brother's life.
That's amazing.
And just in 2015, my brother's roommate stabbed him in the back and killed him.
What?
Yes. And
Oh my God.
I know where he is because of that moment. And so
Yes.
maybe that'll give you a little deeper insight as to why I support these people.
Yes.
They're changing lives. They're saving lives. They are helping with people with self-harm and suicide. And, music is medicine.
Right. Absolutely.
It soothes the soul.
100%.
And I just wanted to give that testimony to let people know that my brother walked away that night and said, if he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. That's
And,
awesome. Yeah. Brian's, I tell you what, I even told this to Lacey. I said, look, when we're done doing, working with you, I said, Brian is another guy I want to talk to about possibly doing a movie about his life. I said, because I think it would be extremely impactful to people.
Yeah.
And
I love that man.
So, Mr. Head, we're coming for you next. We wrap up with Lacey.
Uncle Bri, here we come, man.
So, okay, well, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on here. And so the new show that you have come out, is it? Do you have a schedule yet for it? Anything you want to tell people?
Yes, it's Backstage with Mothership, and it's going to be Mondays. Ooh, what is it? 8 to 9, and it starts July 13th.
Wonderful. I hope everybody.
As soon as I can figure out how to use the programs.
Well, I hope everybody listening to this show tunes in to you. I know I will be listening to you. I'm very interested in talking about all this stuff. So if I'm enjoying talking this, I'm going to enjoy listening to you talking to other people about the Christian rock community and stuff like that. And God bless you and your ministry and everything you're doing to help your family and take care of them. And God is going to truly bless you
He has.
tenfold. I mean, even from here on out, it's not about where you've even gotten to. I can even see the blessings that I have from God, but I just know that our sole purpose on this earth is to return our love back to Him in any way that we can, and that is in doing the wonderful stuff that you're doing, and those blessings will continue to come. So,
Amen.
God bless you, Cindy, and everything you're doing. And this was wonderful having you on here. And I hope everybody goes and checks out your stuff and checks out your radio show every week, and that you're very successful with that and everything moving forward.
Thank
and to you
you
and your family, I hope everybody has had a wonderful Independence Day.
Yes.
This unfortunately will be airing after the fact, but that's okay. We're still in the mood.
We're
go. Still celebrating for the next
Cray,
week or whatever.
cray.
Yeah,
That's
cray
right.
cray. That's you. Cray cray.
It is me.
So, and for the Big M, Mr. Mark
sorry.
Anthony over there, I'm Michael Kadrie. This is Blabber Brain Show, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.